All right. So welcome. Today we're going to talk to you about time management. And this is going to be our 2.0 talk from our conversation from earlier this week. So let's go ahead and jump on in. I've got some slides that I'd love to share with you all here. So first things first, here we go, time management. So why plan your time? Here's what I would jump in, take some notes. Why plan your time? So number one, guys, time is money. Now, when we think about it, time, like as you get older, we have less time, but it's more valuable. So what I like to say is that when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, like that's like even in your teens, that's the best time to take advantage of the most of your time. That's when you're going to capitalize on the most of your results as well in terms of what you can get with your time in terms of like investing, for example. Why plan time? It's so that you don't miss deadlines or like feel the pinch of like, oh, I got to get this done and this done and this done. It also establishes a sense of control. When you know what you have going on, it's good to have that sense of control. It's also a good feeling of accomplishment when you see that you're getting what you have in your schedule done. You're like, okay, wow, like I'm getting some traction on this. I'm growing, I'm learning, and things are moving in a positive direction. It also gauges progress for you. Being able to see like, okay, what am I what's my timeline looking like in comparison to like where I'm at right now. So that's a really important one as well. It gives you a switch because then you're like, okay, I gotta go do this, I gotta do this, I gotta not do this, I gotta turn this off, and gotta make sure I'm doing this a little bit more effectively. It also helps you visualize the end result because when you could see like your plan coming together over the course of time, it of course makes it a lot easier to get everything else done as well. So um, that's definitely important. Next, let's talk about Parkinson's law. So, guys, Parkinson's law essentially means that work expands to fill the amount of time you have available for it. No matter how much time you have, you will spend it all. So, this comes back to the example I gave earlier, where it's like if I gave you, or if I told you that you were going on a trip to Europe next week, or let's say I told you you were going on a trip to Europe next month, you probably wouldn't start packing until you might start packing slowly a little bit now, seeing what you have, seeing what you don't have, start buying some stuff here and there. But if I told you you had a week to pack for your trip to Europe, you probably start packing today. Some people would maybe start packing a couple of days before the trip anyway. But if I told you that you were going to Europe tomorrow, uh, you'd probably start packing like right away, and it would take you maybe a couple hours to pack. But if I told you that you were going on a trip to Europe in 3 hours, you would stop what you're doing, pack what you needed, everything that you could in that 1 hour, get to the airport just so you can make it on time. So it's of course all depending on how much time that you have available for a task. You will spend that time. If you give yourself no limit to how much time you spend on social media, you're going to fill that time up with social media. So that's Parkinson's law. So how does this relate? Well, I want to help you guys understand your time a little bit. So if we understand this simple concept, we're going to get a lot more done and things will be a lot more effective. So guys, there are 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. That's where we get this 168 hours in a week. Now, if you spend 8 hours a day sleeping, which by the way, I know most of you aren't spending 8 hours a day sleeping, especially as college students. Some college students might sleep 6 hours, some five, some seven. But let's just say it's eight just to knock out those hours really quickly. So that means you're spending 56 hours of a week sleeping. So that leaves you with 112 hours. Now, let's say you have class for 3 hours a day, 3 hours a day times 5 days. That's 15 hours of class. So we take that out, and that leaves you with 97 hours left. Now, let's say, I know everyone does this so much, 4 hours a day studying. Let's say you spend 4 hours a day studying for 7 days a week. I know you tell your parents you're studying so much, so often. I was in college too. But guys, that gives you 28 hours that you spend on studying. If you do, no problem. I'm glad. If you don't, this is a little buffer for you. And so that takes, of course, 28 hours away from that 97, leaving you with 68 hours left for the week. Now, by the way, if you spend 4 hours a day for recreation time, things that you do for fun, hang out with your friends, maybe you go to the gym, maybe you play a sport, maybe you play video games, maybe you're, hanging out with people or spending time with people at the dining hall, whatever it is. 4 hours a day times 7 days, it's another 20 hours. Subtract that. That leaves you with 40 hours. Now, if you spend 20 hours a week on Vector, which by the way is 3 hours of phone time and 8 to 12 demos, it's probably going to take you 20 hours for that. You will sell probably anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on where you're at. You're gonna make anywhere from like 250 to $1,500 in income with 20 hours a week of Vector time. That leaves you with still 20 hours a week of free time, which over the course of 7 days boils down to 2.7 hours a day that you could still spend on free time. Just so that you guys are aware. So recreation time, obviously, like there's things that you got to do, like get ready and like hygiene and transportation, getting to class, blah, blah, blah. So like you can allot those into different sections. But you still have a lot of time to do a lot of studying, and you still have a lot of time to do a lot of recreation time, and still a lot of time for Vector and even some free time. So if you understand your time, then you know where it goes. So this is a really important little quadrant that I want you guys to draw. So this is the matrix of time management. And this is something that is really, really important to understand. There's 4 boxes that we always batch tasks into. There's the urgent and important box. There's the important but not urgent box. There's the urgent but not important box, and the not urgent and not important box. So I'm going to break down each of these boxes to help you best understand how to make the most out of your time. So you have your important column on the left, your urgent row on the top, and then just turn it into a little 2x2 and just take each of the 2 words, kind of pair them into each box. Reminds me of a Punnett square for biology, but that's what we got for your quadrant here. So I'm going to go and move on to the first box. So just the first box here, just so we're all on the same page. We'll understand your time a little bit more effectively. We'll start off with the quadrant of necessity. So remember, that's this urgent and important. Urgent and important. This is what you need to manage the best that you can. So that's like things like crisis, medical emergencies, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects, last-minute preparation for scheduled activities. That's going to become very urgent and important. A lot of people spend a lot of time here. Now, by the way, this is the quadrant of quality and personal leadership, directly impacts how easy or hard it is to manage the quadrant of necessity. So this, how much time you spend here, actually makes this easier. So this is a box that most people don't spend a lot of time in. And that's what causes a lot of issues and challenges in the future. So I'm going to encourage you guys to spend more time here to things that are very important, but not urgent. What is that? Preparation, planning, prevention, value clarification, exercising. Guys, exercise, like a simple example, you don't have to exercise. Like a lot of people don't, but it's important. And if you're exercising, you're taking care of yourself, you feel better, you're feeling healthier, you have more energy. And if you're not doing it, it's going to become like, it's going to turn into, some pressing problems in the future. So that's one really simple way to understand it. Relationship building. You can't just like procrastinate on a relationship. That's not going to work. So some people, procrastinate like classes or studying, and sure, that could work sometimes. But you cannot procrastinate on things like exercise or things like a relationship, because if you procrastinate on it, it's already too late. That relationship no longer exists. It's a two-way street. And then true recreation and true relaxation. Interesting. So if we put that in our important but not urgent, that's what's going to be true recreation and true relaxation, because you guys will see down here, we actually want to spend and focus here to achieve our goals faster. This is what you want to manage the best you can. And then you got to be careful here. This is the quadrant of deception. This is the not important, but urgent. So these activities may appear urgent when in relation to your goals, though they're not. So again, when you're thinking in relation to your goals. So what would that be? Interruptions, some calls, some mail, some emails, some reports, some meetings, many pressing matters, many popular activities could seem really pressing, or it could seem really urgent, but they're not super important. And then lastly, you have your quadrant of waste. You want to avoid this quadrant here as much as possible. This is the not urgent and not important. The more time you spend here, the fewer goals you will achieve. So what would that be? Some busy work, trivia, junk mail, some phone messages, email, time wasters. I put like social media in here, escape activities, viewing mindless TV shows, things that we feel like might be important, but we actually, when we think about in relation to our goals, is that Netflix show really important? No. But most people, they don't kind of like understand, when they think something is important, they don't know what to compare important to. Important is depending on in relation to your goals. So let's talk about some of the extra things here that fall in the quadrant of waste. So bottom right. So that'd be like your phones, social media, mindless TV, video games, YouTube. This is like what I would consider the fast food of time. So when you think about if you have a lot of fast food, you're not going to be really healthy. This is the fast food of time. You spend a lot of time here, it's not going to go well. Quadrant of deception, which is the one that's right over here. That's not important, but urgent. So what's in that section? Oopsies, going too fast. Poison of perfection, last minute stuff, interruptions, helping friends, popular activities. Excess is typical here. By the way, like you can still help friends, but just like when it says excess is typical, that you might be spending too much time in a section or in this quadrant for particular areas. Next is the quadrant of necessity. Again, this is the important and urgent box, the one that was on the top left corner. This is like deadline driven things like exams, emergencies, emotionally moving activities, last minute preparation for events. Managing this is key. So just ask for help. If you need help managing your schedule a little bit better so things are less pressing, ask for help. Then the most important is the quadrant of quality and personal leadership. So this is the important but not urgent box that we talked about. This is that planning, that goal setting, studying, preparation, healthy living activities, relationship building, true recreation, true relaxation. Time spent here is going to feel most valued. So by the way, like when we talk about different quadrants, like helping friends, yes, for sure, but also relationship building. Like think about the intentional relationship building versus helping friends. That's kind of like what you want to be aware of. A lot of the time management things I've learned recently over the last few years, it's not what you say yes to or what you put in your schedule, but what you do actually say no to. Because that is actually helping you spend more time in a box like this to move your life more forward. That's why when I started this job back in 2016, I started spending less time with the people that I was not really growing with. People that I didn't really, the relationships and the friendships were good for me at the time, but it wasn't something that was really going to accelerate my personal growth and my leadership. So I just naturally started spending less time with them, and I started spending more time with people at the office. And we're still friends. I'd wave to them, whatever the case is, but they just know that like I was on a different track, and they're not offended by it, and I'm not offended by it either, because I had a different focus in my life. So really important action step for all of you here is to just make sure that you're creating simple systems. I heard this quote recently, or this acronym recently, but system actually stands for save yourself time, energy, and money. That's what a system does. Saves yourself time, energy, and money. So things like to-do list. By the way, if you just leave a to-do list as a to-do list and you don't put it into your schedule, it's not going to get done. So put that activity into your schedule, put that into a Google Calendar. Maybe you have a list of reoccurring activities. Put that in as a weekly little thing in your schedule. I have a lot of our managers' calendars to hold them accountable to their schedules. So when I think about like the different calendars I have Alex's calendar, I have Maya's calendar, I have Tarek's calendar, John's calendar, Mariana, Miguel, Xander, Darius, Dominic, Emily, Freddie, Madeline, Michaela, Ryan, and Shira. I have all of their calendars with all of their classes. Why? Because it holds them more accountable. I don't really care what they're doing on a daily basis, but I would recommend to create some systems for yourself. Maybe share it with someone. Share that Google Calendar with them. Goals and dreams. That's a really big one. Put your goals and dreams into simple systems. Because when you think about like accomplishing a certain goal for like fitness, it's not going to happen overnight. You got to make sure that you're hitting a simple system or creating a simple system like working out 3 times a week or something like that to hit your goal. Deadlines, whatever's comfortable for a calendar. Demos, goals each day, phone time, spending 60 minutes a week putting it together. By the way, yes, put planning time into your planner, into your calendar so that it actually happens. It's a crazy concept, I know, but you actually have to put the planning time into your planner in order to make the rest of it happen. That's the step that most people skip out on. They're like, oh, like I'm not good with time management. Well, did you put the time management time in the time manager? Hello. Newsflash, it won't work if you're not working the planner. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I typically do this on like Sunday mornings. It's a good time to map out the schedule. And then just realize that you really got to value your time. So avoid time bombs. Again, fail to plan to fail. Stick to your plan. By the way, when I was new to time management, especially in college, I wouldn't know how much time to give a certain task, like studying or like taking care of like preparation before an exam. And sometimes I would spend more time studying than I needed to. And I would start to like give myself extra time and then start to give myself, like, as I figured out myself, just like give myself less time when I noticed that it didn't need as much time as it actually did. So if I thought I needed an hour, I'd actually give myself an hour and a half to study, just to like give myself a little bit of an extra buffer. And that really helped me out. Make the right choice more often. So you're always going to have the opportunity to make the right choice. First of all, like jumping on this call, right choice. Sleeping in, wrong choice. So appreciate you guys for being here. I recognize that. And, those are the little things that you're doing on a daily basis. That's what gets you closer to your goals and dreams, whether that's a short-term goal, school-wise, GPA-wise, or long-term goal, something that you want to, have in your future for like a career or your dream job. Reflective and thinking time. I have thinking time in my schedule every single week. And that's where I literally spend time thinking about the last week, reflecting what went well, what can I improve on, what's going to be better for this part of my life, this part of my life, this part of my life. And that helps you get better and better and better. And that helps you also find clarity. I encourage you guys to journal. Now, by the way, if you don't know how to journal, just like start writing. And you don't have to like give yourself a prompt, but like I just oftentimes like ask myself a question, like what's been, something I've been thinking about often. And then I'll start to think about it. And then like as you write, like you'll start to figure out the answer to that thing too, because you already have all the answers. You just gotta take more action. And another really cool activity that I recommend for everyone, especially as you grow in this business and make more income, identify what is your time worth. So if you think about, for example, let's say you're like when you're out of college, this is typically it makes the most sense. But let's say you make $50,000 a year. $50,000 a year, let's say you spend 40 hours a week working. So $50,000 a year, 40 hours a week. So that's $50,000 a year. And let's say you spend 40 hours a week working. Well, $50,000 a year divided by 52 weeks. That's going to be about $1,000 of income a week. Now, let's say you work 40 hours a week. Let's say that's 961 divided by 40. That's going to be $24 an hour. So $24 an hour, like when you think about like when you're actually at work, it's like what is what you're doing going to generate $25 or more in that hour. Now, when you go into a position like becoming an entrepreneur or working at a position where you spend more time at certain things, like during different times of my life, in this business, I will spend, more hours on the job. For example, over like winter break and summertime, I'm spending closer to 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours a week at certain times of the year. And I understand that, and I'm aware of that, and I'm cool with it. But then when I balance it all out and I break down how much is my time worth per hour, it helps me realize, okay, wow, Jacob, like the activity that you're doing, is it going to create at least, $25, $50, $100, depending on like what that number is created as. And if it's not, then you got to start to think about how can I, maybe get some help so I could, have someone fill up that task. There's this really good book out there called Who, Not How. It's not how can I get this done, it's who can help me get this done. And then you start to partner with people, and this is where you start to give people opportunity and help them grow. And it's just a really cool concept. But find out what your time is really worth, and realize that you are the biggest variable. And this is important to learn. Like at the earlier you learn this concept, the more important it will be for you. So get better every single week. Share your plan, share your system, commit to what is best for you. By the way, some people that I work with, they like write down their to-do list on a little post-it note or a little index card, and that works great for them. Some people, they have a Google Sheet. Some people have a Google Calendar. Some people have a planner. So like everyone's different, but find out what works for you. So commit to what's best for you. Take pride in your accomplishments. Take pride in like how much you've grown. Make sure you really guard your time. That's important, especially in college. Guarding your time is you've got to put guardrails up, because if you don't, people will jump into your time and take your time pretty quickly. Goal achievement starts with the daily and weekly happens that we create, the weekly actions that we create. One tasking is the key. Multitasking does not work. There's so many studies from like experts in psychology, experts in this field, that like multitasking does not work. Sure, people say they can do something, but like if you're trying to like listen to an audiobook and also like write a paper and also like wash the dishes, like that's not gonna, like those, each of those activities will take much longer to be able to complete. So make sure that you guys are always one tasking. What's going to happen? The result: improved grades in school. I'm sure I would want that if I'm in college. More relationships and closer relationships. Wow. So when we are more effective with time management, we're actually going to have better relationships in our life. Interesting. You also have a healthier way of living, which, by the way, helps you have more energy, more focus, and you just feel better. And that will also impact school and your relationships. By the way, fun becomes more fun when you plan, because you know that you have things to look forward to. Like, let's say you get really good at time management and you plan out like a really fun trip for your family, like next January 2025. Like that trip becomes very fun to think about, and the anticipation of that trip is really fun too. By the way, when you plan more effectively, you'll be more clear-minded as well, because you're not thinking about 50 things at once all the time. I've been there before, and it becomes really stressful, and it weighs down on you a lot when you have all those thoughts in your head and you're just like, man, I have to get this done, this done, this done, this done. Just put it all on your calendar. And then it becomes like a lot less scary. And then more accomplishments. And of course, you'll make more money as well. So there's time management 2.0, and implement, learn, share your calendar with me if you like. And let's rock and roll.